All right, guys, what's up? Good morning. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. I hope you guys are feeling good. Hope you're doing well. I do apologize for that little bit of a delay right there. I'm going to share this live stream in the chat a couple times and we'll be good to go here. All right, so good morning. Hope you guys are feeling good. In this particular video, we're just going to talk all things trading. There's a couple of things that I do want to go over in terms of a live trading archive from Friday. And we're also going to do a little bit of a monthly review going over September. This was a pretty tough month. There was a lot of great opportunities. There's a lot of things that was pretty solid about the month. But, you know, there's also some challenges, right? So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to talk all the good, all the bad, the things that we could have done better. And now the month isn't officially over, but, you know, still going to always be good to do these reviews. So for those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, you guys will see that the disclaimer that's up on screen. And by the way, I'm also going to jump into Gen 1 and share my screen. That way, those of you who are in the actual chat, you guys can always feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go. So let me just hit that call out as well. Sunday review. All right, so yeah, just take a look at the screen right there, right? Remember, for those of you who are beginner traders, newer traders, anybody who might be tuning in, just remember that trading is risky business, all right? That's all that disclaimer there is really up to say. If you're newer to the markets, you do have to take it slow. You got to remember that, you know, it's not get rich quick. It does take time, if not months, more commonly years, to become successful. So keep that in mind, all right? Take it slow, and then over time, you know, as you become more competent and experienced, then you put out a little bit more risk, all right? So with that being said, I'm going to pull up my trader view stats, and we're going to look at the monthly tally here so far. There's still 1 day left in the month, but you know, it's fair enough to where we can at least take a look at everything. So I'm going to get my stats going back to, I believe, Wednesday should be good. And we'll re-import and then pull up those stats. And there's a couple of different softwares that people out there use to track their metrics, whether it's TraderView, Kinfo, Excel. A lot of people still use Excel. Excel's pretty good, as you guys know. So let me just export this data to documents, save, and then I'll import over here. Documents, let's grab that file. Day trading, I tell you, man, day trading is the easiest, hardest way to make money. Sometimes the experience is extremely enjoyable and smooth, and then other times the experience can be quite frustrating and quite brutal. And by the way, I spoke about getting a new camera, right? This camera is actually the same camera, but what I did reconfigure some things. The new camera I do have, but I think instead of using it as a webcam, I'm going to use it for other content, which you guys will start to see coming out this week. Yeah, I can increase. So yeah, I'll increase the settings on my mic here just a little bit. It is gonna drop back down because I have some muffled settings on it. So hold on, reduce your volume here just a quick sec. I'm gonna increase mine, just reduce yours. It's gonna be much louder, but it is gonna come back down to like a medium. So just fair warning, Yeah, I have this setting. It like reduces background noise. In fact, what's funny enough is that before we really jump into it, this just came, about a couple of minutes ago, which is my new mic. So we'll be setting this up for Monday. Hopefully, it's much better than this one that we're using right now. So let's go ahead and refresh, and we should be good to go here for all these new trades. Your import is complete. Okay, let's come back to the calendar. So in terms of September, this has been the month so far. It's been a pretty rough month for me. I did have my biggest red day in a long time on the 25th, which was nothing but my own fault. As you can see, just abysmal accuracy here, 30%. Just, stock OCTO, which was a fairly decent stock overall, but just a little difficult for me to capitalize on. And I did not ease off, which was part of my rules, right? Sometimes we have these laps in judgment and in discipline that can cost us. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to also pull up the YouTube live stream chat. For those of you who are in the chat room, right, we got a couple of people who did start to tune in. It's a Sunday. I didn't mention that I was going to be doing a Sunday video, so a lot of people might not be up or at the market, let's say at their computers or whatever. But for those of you who are in chat, let me see something here. You guys can feel free to ask questions here. We're going to pull up the YouTube chat as well as we go. Put on these headphones so I can hear you guys in the Discord if you do ask questions. So yeah, I'll pop out the YouTube chat. We'll throw it over here. For those of you tuning in, by the way, hit that thumbs up as we're getting started. We already got about 60 people, which is quite a lot. So let's see here. Yeah, the volume is going to be a little bit better there. Okay, yeah, no. Well, my biggest challenge. Yeah, so we'll come to the question here in a quick sec. So September, this is what it's been about. Not only myself, but a lot of other traders had a tough time. But I will say we had some strong stocks. We had some stocks that, I believe like 3 stocks went from about $5 to $23 last week Tuesday to Wednesday. And you can see my performance this week. Whilst every day after Monday should have looked like this, the 17th, we fell off, right? We had trouble capitalizing. So it's been quite the month. A day like Friday is what I'm very used to in a typical strong market. And I want to compare the price action on the 27th versus the price action on the 18th and the 19th, so you guys can see why I had a little bit of trouble capitalizing in some areas. And this is going to help me too as a study session, and also I can game plan a little bit as to how I want to approach this upcoming week. So if I wasn't live, this is the type of thing I would have been doing behind the scenes, right? So I'm going to come over here. We're going to pull up some archives. And, just for transparency's sake, we can show how the year is going. Just for the people tuning in who, maybe it's their first time. Because I did post, and I'm talking like this because I posted this live stream to my Instagram page and a couple other pages as well. So we'll probably get a couple more people tuning in for the first time. Let's filter for this year. So this is how the year is going. It's been a solid year. It's been my best year. The markets, from according to the big time traders, the people who've been here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and I'm approaching the end of year 5, right? The people who have been here 10, 20 years are saying, hey, the markets right now are basically dead. They're slow. So it's like, if you can make money in this market, then you're doing pretty well. And I'm having a decent year, solid year. So, I do want to say that I'm grateful for that, but there's still work to be done. And so we need to prepare ourselves so that when things do get to this next level that they're talking about, we can fully lock in and really capitalize to 100%. So yeah, let's pull up some video, and I can sign into my student portal, right? Because as you guys know, I can log into the course, but what I'll do is the old-fashioned way right here, right from my computer. And let me just grab those dates. So if we come back to the calendar, I believe it was September 18th. So yeah, we'll look at we can look at the 27th first. trading in a real account. All right, all right. So this is what I like to call, you know, a live archive, right? Which is the recording of my screen, with all my indicators that I use, watching over the stocks that I traded on this particular day. So this is the 27th, which was Friday, just a couple days ago. So we had DUO continuation, ONCO, and CNEY or were my top three stocks. And you know, just looking at the percentages, ONCO 97%, 12 million shares of volume. CNEY 74%, 41 million shares of volume. DUO, you know, because it was continuation, the percentage gain wasn't as high, but you can see it was still pushing a lot of volume. In fact, even more than the two newer stock that came up on the scans. You know, part of the strategy is always to be trading something that's liquid, something that has volume, something that is relevant and obvious. And because our strategy is so short term in terms of like our whole time, you know, we look to capitalize off of the volatility, taking, you know, many trades throughout the day. So this is exactly what I like to see here. So that, you know, this is a good start here, you know, pre-market and then coming into the open. We did talk a lot about these extended drops, which we did see on ONCO first candle in the middle of the screen here. So initially I had 611 and 666 as the pre-market high and low for the current range that we had. But coming into the open, you know, we might not be going up 70 cents and down 70 cents. So I'm watching here and I'm going to notice that this thing is going to start to price in a bit of a high point at 650. The low is going to be down here at, what was that, 26 and 20. So right here, I attempted this trade. I'm going to place a limit order on the ask at 37 to try to get something out of it. But you can see that it was a little on the choppier side, right? It didn't quite push through over 40. So that ended up being like a scratch trade. Fair, 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 fair. And this has been kind of tricky to do recently, again, because we've been seeing these over exaggerated flushes, stocks that are somewhat holding up, and then, you know, I mean, they'll even flush down below the low price that we had for pre-market, right? So even buying like 611, sometimes they'll flush down to like 580, which is what we saw a little more midweek and last week. So I moved over to CNEY, which was a little cheaper, just at a dollar 13 cents. And I think initially I watched for the continuation push over 113 at the pre-market highs, or excuse me, at the current high of day candle right here. Couple cents, you know, it gets up to 16. A lot of people like to ask us, hey, how do you know the halt levels? Well, the broker that I'm using in Charles Schwab, well, oh, excuse me, DAS Trader for executions, DAS Trader Pro, which is the level 2 that I have up here. It has the halt levels built in to the software. If you don't have that and you're looking forward to it, Momo Pro is another good viable option, which is the scanners that I use. It does also show halt levels. So yeah. By the way, let me check out the chat. Let me check out the chat here. Let's just see. I'm gonna post this again. I'm gonna post the link again just in case a couple people are now tuning in. So I was using massive, well, I wouldn't even say massive size, but fair size. A lot of beginner traders are not going to be marketing in and out with 4 to 8,000 shares. What I did not do on this day was to be buying twice. I didn't do that, but I could have done that in some areas, and we'll talk about it here. So I want you guys to note how on CNEY, right hand side of the screen, how the spreads are very tight. 117 by 118, 1 cent spread. Because this is going to be pretty key coming up when we do look over at some of the other stocks that are a little bit more expensive and pricey and spready as well. I'm gonna turn on this fan because it's getting kind of hot. And we're gonna get back to the commentary here in a sec. Oh, sorry about that. I'll pull that back up. Took a screenshot. Where did it go? Okay, hold up. So let's come back a bit. Okay, so there's a couple of things that happened. We did price in a red candle, and there was a small pullback trade that came. So we like to call this the baby pullback, right? When stocks go up, they have to come down, which is why we love our strategy and we think it'll be around forever, because there's no stock that'll go straight up and straight down. There has to be a flow, right? Consolidation. So this particular area here, when we had this red candle, can we base out? And if we do, can I be in either at the low or fairly close to the low with a tight stop, looking for the stock to go back up? So this stock, I would say, is pretty linear. It goes, it gives a retracement that's, somewhat relative to the move that we just had. It goes, it gives a retracement relative to the move that we just had, and it ranks and repeats. We're going to look at that in this review here. And then when we check out the stock from last week and see how much it was pulling back, there's going to be a small difference there. And it's going to really show why, if you can recognize the change in trend early, you can position yourself to be in properly, safely, and also be able to capture, potentially a short going back down at the high of the range, right? If you have shares available. It's, a little bit more advanced, but it's worth talking about, because some of these stocks, and so again right here, right, it pulls back a small amount relative to the move that we had up, and I'm looking to jump in to see if it does want to curl back up for a retest and continue to push through the highs. What I've realized with trading is that, again, is the easiest, hardest way to make money. If I go to my regular 9 to 5 job, for me to make or even be able to see $400 on a check, especially if you don't have a really high level concentration or skill, even if you're making $50 an hour, $60 an hour, which is considered a decent like wage or even salary here in the States, it'd take you all day to be essentially up at like $400, right? And so again, with the market, we can make and or lose so much money so quickly, which is why it's important to take it slow in the beginning, and not until we master or have good competency of a strategy do we want to get involved with size like this, especially. So we had a couple of candlesticks going up, 123, which I had as the pre-market high. That's what this line here is. At this point, I'm recognizing, okay, this is not coincidence that this stock at this point is like just coming up at this level and then not moving higher. So that was something that I had to realize here. So this particular archive and all of the archives that we ever do, every day that we trade, we record our screens because we know that it's important to come back and rewatch the day. And I like to compare it as, from that analogy of like being on the sidelines as a coach watching the players play. I'm coming back and watching myself play the game to see from a different point of view what I could have potentially done differently and or better, right? So I encourage everybody watching on to record their screens. You guys can utilize platforms like OBS. This one is free. There's a million tutorials on YouTube. It's definitely worth checking out, man. I'd say not to sleep on it. So right here is a key. It's pretty key. The stock is going to come down, and we started to see this bit of a double bottom at this level of like 14 and 15. And not only that, this is also why level 2 is sometimes pretty useful. Yet, can it be noisy? Yes. But right here, There's someone that's trying to buy 200,000 shares. 200. This is somebody that's putting up over $200,000 in cash to potentially buy the stock at 113. So if you guys think that I'm being aggressive, and you know, it's all relative. Some of you who might be much bigger traders than I, who would probably be in this thing with 50,000 shares, for this size of 4, 5, 6K that I'm using, it's like baby size. But for someone else who might be using 50 shares or 500 shares, it's like, to them, I'm using bigger size, right? So it's all relative. Here's someone using 200,000 shares versus my 5,000, right? So because this order is so big, I'm watching the stock as it's right above this level here, 14, 15, 16, even if it comes down exactly to 13, to see how it reacts. Because sometimes these orders here are fake orders, believe it or not. Sometimes the orders can get canceled. You know, it's usually some sort of, you know, canceled orders at time, like, you know, as the stock comes close, it's just gone. It can never really be fake because, you know, I guess the account has to reflect that type of buying power for it to even show up on the level 2. But, you know, if you want to say manipulation at times, where big orders come and then they vanish, right? And you might think, hey, a bit of a support could be coming in that zone or area, that price point, and then it's not. So I was utilizing that area there as a form of support. And as the stock move up, can I unwind some shares? With 5,000 shares, every penny that the stock goes up or down, I'll make $50 or lose $50. For where I am with my experience and risk tolerance, I'm very comfortable with that number, right? Very comfortable with that number. For the individual with 200,000 shares, every penny would be $2,000, just for reference, right? So there's levels to it for sure. So as it's up here around 20, 21, 22, and retesting the previous resistance, I'm unwinding some shares, taking a little bit of gains. And ideally, this is how I want to trade the stocks, right? Now, because this stock is moving a little slower relative to a stock at $10, it's also why I'm in longer, right? If we come back to a $10 stock, there's a lot of times where we'll get the 20, 30-cent move in maybe 3 or 4 seconds. The entire range could be 50 cents, but I'm taking the 20 cents, 30 cents, or 15 cents sometimes. So the trades can be lightning quick. So right here, I'm going to attempt the breakout over 24 as the volume is picking up on the tape. I'm seeing a little bit of green. And so I got very aggressive here. If I could go back, you know, and looking back at this, the number one thing I think I'd have to tell myself is to remember that where we just came from, you know, we're somewhat extended. So there's two things I want to be thinking about. What's the high and what's the low? The closer we are to the low, and wherever that level is, whatever price the stock is, it could be a $6 stock at 650 coming back down to 610. Whatever it is. The closer we are to the lows, the closer we are to support. The further away from the lows, the more extended we are. And especially when there's a known level where we kind of had trouble already to break above, which is resistance. To take this type of size here is very, very questionable and risky. So, you know, I'm looking back at myself. It's like, I can see that I got a little too optimistic and tunnel vision thinking that the stock would just go. Like, yeah, this is just going to rip through 23 and go 25, 28, 30. The halt level is 34. Can we get halted up 34? I think if I want to attempt this trade, a safer thing to do is to take, let's say, 2,000 shares. Okay, if it doesn't go, maybe I risk $60. And you're going to see what's going to happen to me here because it's not going to go. Newsflash. It's like, you know, from 23, in 1 second later, it's down to 17. And there goes half of my beautiful gains. Could I have went in there with less size if I was mentally stimulated to the point where I was thinking about everything? That's the key. And it's why trading is so difficult, because you're multitasking really is what you're doing. And I'm not the best multitask. I you know, if I'm playing a video game or something, I can't have a conversation. I can't trade and talk on the phone, like these type of things. So I got to continue to work on remembering my levels. And so sometimes what's also good to do is to put trend lines, right? Okay, the low's at 14, and have color coded trend lines for different types of levels. So you remember, hey, we're getting close to this area, ease off. All right. So something so simple like that can, cost you $300. So this thing comes down, but it does come down. We're closer to the support. And so this is where my mindset kind of changes a little bit, which is, okay, you drop a ball from a very high place, you can see that bit of a bounce. This loss that we took is fine if we're using smaller size, and then we're going to try to take a support trade. And right here, I know that we can come down to 13, but I'm going to look for the 2 cent, 3 cent pop before it maybe potentially comes down lower. So that's how this one, we put out a limit order right there. We didn't get the fill. I did try to buy a limit. The spread on the stock is tight. So honestly, doing a market order would probably make more sense. It's better to use the limit orders when the stocks are more spready, right? Which, when we look at the next video, we're going to see some areas where I could have definitely done better utilizing limit. Guys, we have 85 people. 85 people. Hit that thumbs up. I'm showing you guys my raw, live, full trading. I'll give you a look at my setup here so that you guys can see how my layout is. For those of you who are in the chat room, if you do go over to our setup section, there's a section dedicated for trading stations specifically, right? If we just come here quickly, you guys will see a bunch of setups. So this is my setup right here, right? And this screen in the top left-hand corner, when I look up throughout the live stream, this is what I'm looking at. And I kind of did put it a little bit more left, but right here, this screen right here is being recorded every single day and has everything. The YouTube stream, usually the YouTube live stream is this right-hand side of the screen right here, where it shows my 1 minute and my 5 minute. And I do utilize my 5 minute a lot, but because the level 2 is up here, this is usually where I'm looking at. And every now and again, I'll look down, which is sometimes why this screen will be out of focus, right? Can't do a million things at one time, but we try our best. So to come back down a bit, or to reverse it a little bit, we took losses. So look at how much of our profits we gave back, right? And this is where we can become more efficient on a better, smoother day like this. We started off by taking too much sides at the highs, and we tried for the bottom here on this bounce, and we stopped out a little lower. I believe that's what, and we can rewind it a little bit to see how that other loss came. Yeah, so I'm in at 16. I'm in at 16, and you can see we're pulling back. So, again, we do see that the bid is down there 13. I think in this type of situation, sometimes you got to play it by ear and wait a little longer for that dip. Because chances are is that we test this big buyer, right? And if the shares are being filled and we hold up, then there's a chance that the stock will bounce. So here we go. This person is being filled right now. There's a lot of selling at the bid price, and this order's on the bid. And so 30,000 shares has already been filled. Right now I'm watching to see how well can we react and continue to hold. Okay, the order freezes at 167. So I'm like, okay, let me see. Can I take a trade here and try to utilize this person as my stop, literally, right? Because they want 167,000 shares. I'll give them my 5,000 shares if the stock keeps going down and try to have a loss of just $50 if possible. Because every penny with 5,000 shares will be $50, right? So I'm in, and if there isn't enough selling pressure, if the stock is bullish, sometimes this individual will not be able to fill their entire position. And what they'll have to do if they want to get filled is either mark it in, which would send the price flying up, or they'll have to move the order on the bid higher. So if you ever heard someone say walking up the ladder, that's what they mean. Is that if this order jumps to 14, because they can cancel it and put it higher, 14. They can cancel it, put it 15. they can cancel it, put it 16. And that can influence the stock positively, as someone is aggressive is trying to get filled. I've seen a stock go up $3, $3 to $4 a share a few years ago off of a buyer. Maybe it was an institutional buyer, big banks, I don't know. But the person just kept, I mean, talk about slippage, right? I complain if I try to buy at 15 and I'm filled at 17, I complain. Like, man, got a bit of a higher fill because the stock is so volatile. Imagine taking like, if I had to guess, maybe a 1.6 million shares, or maybe less than that. Let's say like 800,000 shares, but you're buying 800,000 shares over $3 a share move. At that point, you're losing millions because of how much it's going up and you're not getting in, right? Now, maybe that person might have known something I didn't. Maybe that stock was going to go to $100. And if the stock is going to go to $100, maybe they're telling themselves, why do I care about $3 if I can still make 90 more dollars a share? Because that stock was at like $6 or whatever, right? If that's the case, I mean, you do what you got to do to get into the stock, right? So, yeah, sometimes it's a little interesting on these big bids, but you can't put 100% trust into it because sometimes the orders can evaporate and there can be so much selling here so quickly, which we're going to see in a little bit, that brings the stock lower. So I do take off something because we're up a couple cents. I'm going to start selling some shares. I'm going to start selling some shares. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit for time. Right, we sell a little bit more shares there. And then I believe it tries for this level again. And what I'm going to do here is a little bit better than what I did before. So because, and this is like an experience, an intuition thing, because this stock hasn't been dropping a lot, like in terms of like aggressive drops very quickly. I mean, we did see it a little bit here, but it really happened at the highs, like at the extreme high of 24. I told myself, if it attempts the high at 23 and it pulls back a couple cents, let's say 19, 18, maybe even 20, but the selling doesn't come immediately, I'm going to take the chance to jump in there to see if it does retest the level for the move. Because what the history was is an immediate drop that's very aggressive and fast from 24 to 17. So if there's a buck or a change in trend, I want to be in just off of that alone, right? Because the history repeats itself in many ways, right? So there's 24. See how right here is where I thought it would have failed if it didn't, stall out, right? So if it was going to do the same thing, we would have been at like 16 already. So it jumps down to 20 and I start to see a bit of green on the tape. And I'm like, all right, this is still risky because, again, what we sometimes do see too is it freezes here and then it still drops. But I accepted the risk. But more importantly, I wanted to see the change in trend versus what just happened. And so I'm going to jump in, and then here comes the move. Can we get through the highs of 23? You can see there's some sellers, and it just went through those sellers like hot knife going through butter. And so we get to get a nice solid trade in here. But here's the risk of trading and why we can't ever relax until we shut down our computer screen. Look at this. I sold at 27, and then the stock is back at 22. So right here, I already told myself this is failing miserably, because in my experience, any breakout that's a good breakout will never come back below the resistance immediately. What it would do if it wants to dip is it dips to the resistance and then it keeps going. So we probably would have dipped to like 24. So right here, sold all because I'm like, nope, I'm not going to try it. And then here comes the flush out. And in which case, I can then look at the lows for entries again. So I was able to dodge this falling bullet here. And this is so subtle, right? From looking very good to 1 second later, literally after I sold into that high of 27, back down. And it's why it's always so close, because could I have said, you know what, I'm going to keep holding for 30, 34? Yeah, it's a possibility. And before you know it, my entire position, I sold nothing, and I'm flat in the trade. maybe that could even encourage me to think, let me just see if it'll go back up. And before you know it, you're red selling right here. And that's what we call the tightrope walk. The fine line, Marcelo calls it the fine line. It's like that fork in the road in decision making. 50% chance, do I want to hold this longer? 50% chance, okay, maybe I do sell some, maybe I sell all. Like, these are just the decisions that we're making as we're actively managing the trade. And depending on the decision that you do make, you'll have to just live with the outcome. And a lot of times you guys will see that I kind of have like a smile as I'm like trading, is because sometimes it's like, man, if I freaking chose the other one, this trade would have been an amazing trade, and here I am like in the slums missing out on good entries. So let's come back to the other recording, right? Don't forget, guys, as you're tuning in, hit that thumbs up. And if you're in the chat room, you can ask the questions through voice. I'm going to come back and revisit the YouTube live chat in a sec. Let's zoom out of this, and we got to get that date, which was the 18th. If trading wasn't so difficult, sometimes it almost feels, let me say this, right? I would never be embarrassed by a red day, but sometimes it's almost embarrassing, because after trading for so long and having such high expectations for myself, doing the things like I'm doing now, whether in public or in private, reviewing, it's like so badly I need, and I know that I can perform well. So when I don't, it's like I don't beat myself up too much, because I understand what I'm doing here. I'm still a realist at the end of the day. But it does suck. It sucks a lot to not be where you want to be on a move that you think you could have done very well on. And PRTG, this stock is going to go to 23 bucks. If a stock went from 1 to 1, well, let's say 110 to 120, and I was able to make 800 bucks, you'd think if a stock go from 12 to 23, $10 a share, that I'd maybe be able to make $8,000, right? Which is what my expectation is for a day like this. And I've been able to do it multiple times in the past, but on this particular day, it's not going to happen. So, let's go back and review and see where we could have done better. So guys, hit that thumbs up if you're tuning in on YouTube. If you're a new viewer, consider subscribing to the channel. This is very technical stuff that I'm doing here today. There's going to be more videos that come throughout the next couple of days, weeks, and months where it's more general. We're going to do videos where it's psychology, motivation. This is extremely technical. It could be hard to follow along if you're pretty new. But if you do know about charts, and you do know about, level 2, the trade, what was it called in Thinkorswim, the ladder. If you know about level 2, market depth, this shouldn't be too complicated. But it definitely depends. If you're brand new, this is going to look like some freaking gibberish on the screen, right? And I was there too. So if you're a beginner trader, subscribe to the channel. Check out the classes, right? Which does go from 0 to advanced, right? Covers all this stuff, so you know exactly what you're looking at and how to position yourself. There is a flash sale on that, by the way, so you guys can check that out. So what I'm noticing, okay, I took a small trade on PRTG, and then I switched over to another stock in NVVE. So I'm not really in just one place at one time, which is fine, because I'm trying to find a strong stock. But it looks like I'm kind of a little back and forth. And looking at NVVE, the setup here does look decent. We went from 613 double bottom, and it looks like I bottom ticked this low, which is amazing, and bounced up to about 25, and I have a limit order on the ask. I'm guessing it's probably at like 28. Right here, I think I should be selling market, because while this could go up to 40, selling half for, and what's my risk in this trade? Okay, I think I'm buying the very low of the stock. I wouldn't want to lose more than 5 to 10 cents in a trade like this. So let's just assume my risk is at let's say like 602 or maybe 605. That'll be like 10 to 8 cents. At my 1-to-1, which would be at, what's that? 22? 22 would be my 1-to-1. My 2-to-1 would be at 32. The stock got to 27, I think, on the ask at one point. So I do like that I did try to take something off. But I think I could have sold market mid-20s to like lock in some sort of gain. Because at the end of the day, we're still aiming for 2-to-1 risk to reward. And that's what's going to really keep us green, right? Because for this hyper scalping style where I'm taking tens and maybe even, let's not even maybe, definitely hundreds of trades in a day, my accuracy is around 50%, right? So if I have a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, meaning every time I buy the stock, if I can look to make 10 cents for every 5 cents that I lose, after 2 trades, I will be net positive 5 cents. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody, right? If I'm looking for 10 cents in a trade for my 2-to-1 and I'm risking 5, right? If I have a 50% accuracy, for every 2 trades that I take, if one is a winner and one is a losing trade, I should still be green 5 cents. So remember back in grade school how you needed 70% was a C, was a C plus, 80% B minus, and then 90% A plus. Well, with this particular strategy in trading, all I need is 50%, even like 46 and up is really green for me. But there are strategies, and just to be clear on percentages and strategies, I've been to conferences where people are green just 10% of the times and are big green traders. There's strategies where you're green 90% of the times. You could be red. There's strategies where it's 70%, and it all varies. There's people green and red in every single strategy that they trade, right? So it all comes down to discipline at the end of the day. You can have a 90% accuracy as a short seller, and then the one day where you're not disciplined on that stock that goes to the moon, your account is gone, right? So there's certain things like that. The discipline is what makes the trader, right? The sword is what makes it, the wielder of the sword is what makes the samurai, not the sword. If you give the sword to the wrong person, they cut themselves. They don't know what the heck they're doing, right? So this stock comes, and this is good. I try to cut it as quickly as I could, and this would have been my stop if I didn't get break even. But it looks like it dropped down. It chops me out, and this is so. Just notice what's happening here versus the review we just did on that stock at $1. Look at what's going on here. NVVE. Sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it to bother with some stocks, because I look at the spread. 08 by 25. And if you're, sometimes it can happen, you can be a little slow to buy. And if you do buy market when this thing was just 6 by maybe 605, 610, it goes to 05 by 25, 08 by 25. If you're slow to buy market order here, you're basically in at 25, and then you're kind of screwed. The trade is just, you're at the mercy of the trade. A couple options, and my number one option is to just sell it immediately. So you can already see like the risk that's associated with this type of stock, and maybe the potential reward too if it ends up being strong. But there's definitely going to be risk, right? Seeing how the spreads are opening up wide like that. So let's see. Okay, we did switch over to NVVE. That one halted up. I kind of just want to remember a bit of how the day went. All right, we're going to come back. Okay. So NVVE, I think, ended up being the strong stock. I think PRTG was the day before, and this day was continuation. The other day, which was Wednesday, is the day that I should have clicked on, I think. But anyhow, we'll look at NVVE, and then we'll come back. So let's just see how PRTG played out here. So again, we were kind of involved over there. This thing gave a low of 1162, high of 1272. It's $1 share drop before it bounced up. So as I click over on this one, so this is something that's very difficult for me here. I'm showing up to the stock and we went from 62 to 59 essentially, or let's say 50. Now, I usually like to trade high or low, breakout or dip, and we're at the breakout area, but it's a little sketchy because will we keep going for the new high, or maybe it needs more of a pullback? And when I'm really in sync, I'm thinking, man, we just went from 62 to 50 to, almost 62, like $1 a share. This thing might need some sort of a dip. There are days, don't get me wrong, there are days they just keep going, but realistically it's like, okay, maybe we might see a pullback here. But because I'm now showing up to the stock, sometimes I'm not really thinking everything, and I can get myself in trouble. So let's see how this played out. Did this keep going right away, or did it dip? Let's see. Guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. I'm going to take a quick look at the comments here as well, and it looks like this one might have went. There's someone from India tuning in. Just be sure not to spam the chat, but we do appreciate you tuning in, brother. Okay, hold on. Let's go back. So this, looking at what happened here, I don't like this trade immediately. Let's go back. So again, will this be a stock that just keeps going? And sometimes it's hard to tell. I can try to utilize level 2 in the tape here. If there's an exuberant, is that the word? If there's an extraordinary amount of buying coming in on the tape, I can look to go long. But again, we just came from so low that it's a tricky trade to take. I'm not watching it. I'm not sure of the price action. But you can see from about 40, we got up to 68, and then I would have needed to be in like here, and I'm not. There's 85, and I would have needed to be in, giving it a chance to go over 13. Not, hey, just take the first 15 cents. This is a $13 stock. We can move much more, and so you can see the range. So this is the difference between a $1 stock and like a $10 stock, right? When we're just going from 115 to 120, 125, this is going from 12 to 13, and all sorts of craziness. So we have to try to position ourselves as best as we can in a low risk area, right? So okay, it's gonna come down for like a baby pullback, but again, it's just so extended versus where we came from. If this keeps flushing out, it would make perfect sense. So this trade, I think, is a trade I could avoid. Let's say where the high's at 1330 up here. I'm buying at 1299 area. Is that enough of a dip versus where we just came from, considering this low of this candle? Probably not, right? So if this does fail miserably, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, we take the quick pop. Let's see how it continues to go. And if if I'm not already involved, 1330 is the high. Do I want to try this at 1330 to see if it goes to 1350 for the halt up? It could go, but again, it's just such a difficult maneuver, being that it feels so extended. Let's see, how did the pastor handle this one? So it's like at 30, didn't quite, and you can see for somebody else who might have bought at 30 right there. I mean, we didn't have like a lot of green on the tape, but sometimes they still go. If you had just bought at 30, well, here you are at 1250, and you're down like 60. So when you see me, Red, or any of the guys here in the chat, and the other mentors, Tim, Marcelo, and I mean, like, especially Triad, like Tim and Marcelo are specifically in terms of the mentors, they use more size than Triad and myself. Like, they're probably in on a stock like this 2,500 shares. So let's say you kind of got a little tunnel vision, because this is how easy it is to lose. If you got a little tunnel vision, you thought, man, this thing might just go up to the next halt level, 1350, 1386, and you bought 2,500 shares at 30. Well, right now you're already down like 16. What was that, like 1,400? You're already red like 1,400. It didn't take nothing, right? So I'm gonna try to buy this area here, and this looking back at, so I didn't have the time to put the trend lines, but I bought the previous high of day, which was about 30, what was this, like 1250, 1260. This particular trade, and I think this is where I need to be better. This particular trade, I need to give it a stop loss of at least 1240. I think this is where I've been getting in trouble with the higher price stocks. And hold on, give me a quick sec here. The problem with me right now is that I've been taking the trades way too quickly and way too actively. And also I've been trying to micromanage, and it's been costing me dearly. So what does that mean? Well, if the stock goes lower than where I am in right now, it's like I'll try to cut it and then re-average, right? But notice how much of a bounce we're seeing. You know, there's certain things that I could start to consider. Again, it's why it's good to have a trade plan before you go into the trade. And you can't just think this is the low, it will never go lower. Let me just look to sell into the moon. You got to like fully understand, and sometimes I fall victim to this again, multitasking, right? It's coming up again. You, like you have to be able to see the trade through from start to end and understand why you're buying, where you're buying, and how you want to manage the trade. And so I think for me a fair stop right here is about 40, because what is my risk to reward, right? If this area is support, and I think it should be support, the previous high of day, realistically this stock can and should go over $13 at least, or at least close to it. So that would be about 40 plus cents or so of potential gains with a risk of 20 cents, which is a fair trade. Now, the other thing to consider with this thought process is the trend of what we've been seeing. And you have to be careful of the trend, because whilst this could be the norm in terms of the grand scheme, in the short term, let's say the last couple days, if the stocks have been going back all the way down to like 11, back to the low where it came from, then you got to be prepared for the extended dips, right? So I to be honest, I have no recollection of this day. So let's just see how this played out. Did I sell anything? How did it go? And it looks like I did try to cut at 40. So just, you know, trading is risky, right? I mean, trading is risky. I thought I bought into a decent place. And, you know, again, what has the trend been? The trend has been that the stocks would go up to these levels instead of giving a fair retracement like the stock that we saw at $1. Fair move up, pull back relative to the move that we just had. Ranks and repeat, ranks and repeat. What we saw this month, and is why I didn't like if this was like a normal month, like of what the momentum has been in the past, I should have done better, right? Or I could have done better. And even with that being said, if I was faster to adjust to these 2 weeks of stocks going back down to the absolute low, like I should have been where I sold. If I'm going to take this trade, where I tried to sell up there is fine, but I need to be buying back where this double bottom is coming up, because that's where the real entry is going to come. So I did my job to try and sell, but you can see that, you know, I mean, some people will not size up because they don't want to be dealing with this. Others will, you know, again, for some people this is big size, for others this is, you know, people, somebody else might have took 10,000 shares up there, I don't know. If they didn't get a good fill, well, they're down at least 6,000 already in the trade. This is how fast we make and lose money, right? So you have to keep your sanity, and you have to also understand that if you're going to be a trader, there's like an invisible contract that you have to sign with the market that says you will lose money, even on decent trades, great trades, bad trades, whatever. You're going to lose money at times. So it looks like I hit the sell button at least around like 1250. I don't know where I'm going to get filled though. Like, let's see if I got the fill. I should have gotten the fill no less than like 30. but depending on how big my loss is, I'll be able to tell here. So let's see. Yeah, so it looks like let's see. It looks like I got to fill maybe it looks like I lost like what's that? Every 10 cents, 1800 is 180. So I lost like 20 cents, which makes sense for where I hit the sell button. But there are days where you get filled at the bottom of this, and those days suck. So it looks like I got the order out like 40 to 29, right? But a moment later, if you hesitated there when it came down to 40 at my stop, if I hesitated, and this is how people get caught off guard, right? So if you're somebody who got stuck in a trade and you panicked, you can't right here at this right this is where you must sell the trade. If you didn't sell already, I know it's gonna suck because you're probably down like already 1K. Right here, you have to stomach the loss, because if you don't, remember the market can be irrational. I mentioned just now, maybe this was the place to buy because that was a trend, right? Full retracement down to the low. There are going to be days where even this full retracement down to the low is not the bottom, but the bottom might be $10. So if you panicked and you froze or whatever feeling, emotion, you have to fight any urge to average down. You have to fight any urge. It's not guaranteed that it holds up this zone right here. It could go down, it could get halted down and resume at $8. And if you buy big here thinking, man, if it at least bounces back a little, I can be flat, you're taking on a level of risk that like has no return if it doesn't work in your favor. Which is why, again, there can be strategies that can work 99% of the times until the one time that it just goes too far. And then, you know, you can't do anything but be at the mercies of the seas. That's why our course is called Merciless Markets, because the markets is merciless, and as you can see from what I see when I trade, it's not easy, especially on a volatile stock. And there's options, right? What are your options here? Your options are, you can use smaller size, something that you're very comfortable with, that if you lose, it's not going to ruin your day, ruin your, you know, longevity is key. So you can use something that's appropriate. What's your max loss in the day? If your max loss is $200 in the day, then there's damn no way you should be using this type of size. Now, my max loss is not 200, but just, you know, again, putting it in perspective for other people. If your max loss is $200, maybe you're using, you know, 50 shares or 20, you know, whatever makes sense, right? But even for me, like, I mean, I didn't anticipate it dropping this much. And again, it's because I'm let's not say ignoring, but I'm forgetting the trend of what's been happening. And I know this watching this back, because even though I took this trade there and I tried to stop out quickly, you didn't see a buy order lower on this candle. It means I'm not in full sync with what the market's been telling me over the last couple of days. And it's a freaking problem, because I could have bought back down here. Like, so I could have sold. Yes, it was a close call. And this is where you have to have, you know, the traders of the highest degree, their mind is still thinking of the next trade. Right here, I'm like, whew, dodge the bullet. No, it's not time to wipe off the sweat off my eyebrow. No, it's time to keep watching, because the next trade is coming. So once we drop down to 76 and then 90, I could have been buying like 97 right here as it starts to bounce. And then tight stop now. So what's my risk? So, you know, you ask yourself, in this trade now, what's my risk to reward ratio? Let's say I bought at 91. We saw that there's a low of 75, and then the low of this candle might have been like 60. If I'm in at 90 and I'm risking like 70, and I'm risking like, let's say 20, you know, like 20 cents, what's my potential reward? Remember, this thing went from 1335 down to 1175. Where can it potentially bounce if it does bounce? What's fair compared to the move that just came down? A minimum of at least like 60 cents. Like it has to be. Well, let's not say it has to be, because the market sometimes does its own thing, but you still want to think what's relative. Okay, we dropped $1, or oh, no, not $1. Was that 25 cents plus a dollar plus another 35 cents. We dropped a dollar and like 70 cents. Is it fair to say we can see a 60-cent bounce? You know, sometimes trading is like, it should be so simple, but it can also be very complex if we're not like seeing the levels fast. Like we have to be thinking fast, remember the trend, and act quickly to execute. Those are like the three things, right? Like the prediction slash intuition along with the trend, and then, you know, being able to execute, jumping back in. And let's watch now the next, let's say 30 seconds to a minute to see if it does go at least another 40 cents or so. Let's say like, can we see like 12.40? That would be from 75, you know, 40 plus 25, about 60 cents, right? Let's see if over the next 30, 40, 50 seconds, if this does bounce back up to like 12.40, 12.50, you know, we're already seeing 26. It's like, this is what this thing is. But you know, what's so tricky sometimes that, again, you buy up here thinking that was the bottom and you forget the trend, right? I look back at this stuff, it's like I just want to slap myself 2 times because I knew this was happening, but it's like somehow in the moment I still kind of forgot and I didn't buy back where I could have bought back. And I kind of even looked over like another stock, right? So we had 30. I mean, you know, maybe it does. Let's skip ahead 30 seconds here. There still looks like maybe 30 might have been the high point there for a little bit. Let's skip ahead a couple more seconds. So it's going to come back down to this area again. And honestly, I think if I'm paying full attention to this stock, I would be buying here one more time. Well, let's see. Maybe, oh, I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say. Let's just say it's hard to say. Maybe I could and risk another 30 cents. Or if you want to avoid the stock and say, because at this point, the 5-minute chart is weak, the 1-minute chart is weak. The only way I'd be looking for more trades here is if I think we can trade in a bit of a range, right? So if I just pull this off the screen just quickly here, right? Let me just bring up this drawing tool here. If I think we can trade in something like this, right? So we had the high of like 11 here, and then or what was that, 13? We had the high of 13, and then the low of 11. You know, we kind of went like this, up and then down. Unless I think we can go back up again all the way, I don't know if I'll be taking this trade here. Unless I really think we're trading in a range. And, you know, we did see that a couple of days before, but if the charting is too weak and not bullish, I'll stay away because I ultimately want to trade something uptrending and not something that's super just, you know, down, stair-stepping down kind of thing. But there is money to be made in the range when we're hitting the high, coming down. Support, resistance. So it's like you can potentially go short up here and then, you know, cover, then buy support, go long, ranks and repeat. And then once it does break the channel, if you did go short, you keep the stop tight. Hopefully this doesn't teleport into like a halt up, of course. I mean, you know, even if it does, you take the loss, whatever. But even if you go short up here, or even if you're not shorting, then you're just waiting for it to retrace, right? But it's like I want to have my mind more programmed to my levels so that I can remember where I should be buying and how I want to engage. So let's skip ahead here. So at this point, NVVE stalled out. And so again, look at what this thing did, right? So if you had the intuition that it was going to give this range, I see this stuff and I get excited because your mind just has to be firing off and like you can do well. And, you know, again, for me personally, I have to give the stock in this type of position room. If I'm in it like 70, 80, got to give it a bit more of a stop. That way I don't get chopped out. Because again, you know, if you held this trade for another 30, I'm guessing it probably was 30 seconds. We can look at it. Maybe it was more. Maybe it might have been like a minute. So it came down to like 70 again. And then it's going to just rocket up there. At this point, NVVE is being halted up. This is what trading is all about, man. And I'm giving away a ton of the strategy here. Honestly, this should be like I should be charging for this master class here, right? This doesn't mean it's gonna be easy. If you're someone who's new, I mean, you still have to go put in, hours. You got to put in screen time. It can, in hindsight, it can seem easy. It's never easy. Everything that we spoke about is a testament as to why it's difficult. But yeah, I forgot to just let this play. Let's go back one more. Yeah, I'll just let this play here so we can see the screen candle coming up. But as this get to like, if I'm back in there at 40, it's like as this get to like the same area here, not 40, what was that, like 1280 area? If I'm in there, once we get up here, I'm already thinking, okay, a couple cents, maybe I can sell a half, I can sell a quarter. When we get this type of jump, I'm definitely going to try to sell something more, especially if we can get above 50. On my best days on these stocks, I'm able to read these levels, give the stock a room for a backstop, and hold the trade to sell higher. On the days where I'm doing pretty poorly, I'm misreading where the bottom should be. And sometimes if I do catch the proper bottom, I'm out a little too soon. And just those small differences is the difference between me on these type of days being up 8-10,000 and being red 1K or small green 500 or whatever the result is, right? So coming into Monday, it'll be interesting to see um if we kind of trade like this again, or if we see more smooth opportunities. So I think for me to start in the first 10 minutes on Monday, I need to just be patient, trade less, smaller size, and wait for the market to tell me what type of day we're having before I really try to engage at full capacity. And even within that time frame, we saw that LUNR didn't really like focus on this one, but you can see I made $900 on this one in a couple minutes. Another testament to just how much you could lose or make in a short time frame. Man, I tell you, man, like just figuring out that the market is a thing, because I don't want to get into like the politics of life per se, but a lot of people, a lot of like African American people, they don't know what the stock market is. Like, I'll say it like this, right? They know it to the degree of what they see on like CNN. Like they'll just see numbers on the side of the screen. Hey, market it crashed today. Market down to like, people don't really know this stuff. Like in these communities where I live, like, so this is like a miracle for me, man. So I'm gonna say this again. Like I'm pretty grateful to like be able to freaking be able to trade and even trade at this type of level. Like it's insane, man. It's insane. It's not easy, but it's insane that money could be generated in this way. It's still kind of hard to believe. You stand here and like, I mean, on those green days I had, like in February, like did I really just make 25 grand in an hour? Like we're it's madness. And so it's pretty exciting to know that I can come back, study. It's like even if the road ahead continues to be difficult, man, even if it continues to be hard, even if I have to suffer like a red week, a red month, like it means nothing in the grand scheme of what the opportunities mean here in this industry. So all I have to continue to do is to do stuff like this in the private time, in public, whatever, and just keep getting better. 1% better, 1% better, over and over and over until I reach the next levels. So the other stock got up to the highs. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, this one is halted up all the way, and I'm gonna watch NVVE right here to see how it does. So hold on, let's see, let's come back. So resumption is about to come up. So again, we might have some beginner people following on, guys. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. We might have some beginner traders following on. So we had a circuit breaker halt, which means that the stock moved up too fast, too quickly, and got into the halt band. And so for 5 minutes, usually it's 5 minute intervals, trading is paused to give people time to kind of gather themselves and understand what's going on. This did happen to the entire stock market back in 2020 during the pandemic. as we know, nobody was going to work, whatever. Businesses are kind of under stress. So the entire stock market was just dropping. So instead of it just dropping to zero, which could happen if this wasn't implemented, it freezes trading. Hey guys, yeah, nobody's going to work and the world might end, but hey, hold on, let's not panic to the point where we let the stock market go to zero. Let's freeze trading. Let's freeze this particular stock to make sure we understand what's going on, the news, and make a plan, right? The government can make a plan. So even on a smaller scale, individual stocks like this are being halted. And so resumption is coming up in a couple seconds here at 6.99, and you can see it resumes. It pushes to 6.40, so it's up almost 50 cents already from where we were halted. So again, high or low. This is too high to be for. It's too. It's too high for me to try to buy. It's just too risky because I don't know how far it could keep going. It's just too hard to tell. There are going to be days where a stock like this just goes up to $8. We've seen it so many times, but it's just so hard to tell. So it's risky for me to just buy right here. What's more reasonable in this situation is can we get some sort of a drop down that's fair, right? So watch this. And also let me say this too, right? I do have indicators as to why I'm buying here, and I'm gonna save that for the classes. I'm gonna save that for the classes. I'm giving out a lot here. I'm not gonna give out everything. What I will say though is to just keep in mind where can you best position yourself based off of risk. So I'm gonna buy that level, and honestly, I remember this day just a little bit. That's gonna be my best trade of the day, and everything else is gonna be downhill. So we're gonna go through all the downhill nonsense to see what I could have done better. The stock, I'm in at 15. The stock is at 60. This is an excellent trade. I was green 900 on one of the other stocks. Granted, we didn't do well on P, whatever the other one was, right? We lost about 250 there. And now here we are adding another 600. At this point, my day is kind of secured, is what I would have thought, is what I would have liked to think. All right, so I don't know. It looks like I didn't really get the best fill because there's a massive spread, which always is a problem. And so I'm going to try to buy again. I'm going to think here, can we retest the level of 60? And I think I'm going to take a massive loss here. Did I? Let's see. And I got filled, yeah. And I took 6,000. Jesus Christ. Pastor, I was going for it. Yeah, I could, man. When these trades start to work again, man, we're gonna be firing on all cylinders. So let's just rewind that one more time, or we'll watch it again. I took the 6,000 trade because the 6,000 share position because I thought we were going to continue up to $8, and I was trying to take another small baby pullback. For us, the baby pullback is considered a pullback where the candlestick drops down, or let's say the stock drops down in the same candlestick, right? And sometimes transitioning into a new candlestick. For the complete list of patterns, you guys can check out the course website. I'll post it here. For the complete list of patterns, right? You guys can check out the course website. I'll post this in the Discord chat. For those of you who are in there, please start crypto trading. Also, someone's saying, I'll post this into the YouTube if I can find it. Actually, there we go. All right, hold on. Let me come back. There's the link. So if you guys just go to chapter 24, you'll see the full length of all the patterns and edges that we trade, right? You'll see the baby pullback is listed there too. So we get the move up. I sold into the highs. It dips down again right here. And I thought this was a momentary drop for the stock to continue higher again. And it seems like I might have overlooked this trend line, which is the pre-market high, which could have been potential resistance. So it's twice in 2 weeks time frame on these 2 days. You guys see me because on the stock at like 120. I bought at 123 right at the pre-market highs. it's tricky because this particular type of momentum feels familiar for me. And in the past, I've seen this same type of like micro churn turn into a continued push. And the goal is, can I be in between 38 and 48 and then be selling over 60, preferably at like 7.99? That's my potential reward that I think, but I'm overlooking the fact that we kind of just top tick the pre-market high. And my chart is pretty zoomed in, which is why you're not seeing the entire charting, but yeah. But I do like that I'm quick to cut the trade when it doesn't keep going. And look at the risk. But remember, Thinkorswim is a little bit of a like a laggy platform. And there are days where we're gonna get a lot of slippage. But usually where you hit sell, if you're quick to hit sell, if the stock wasn't too volatile, usually you're gonna be able to get out in that zone of that 10-cent range of spread in this situation and get your fills right there and not at the very bottom. But there's going to be some days where you're at the very bottom. And if I did, it looks like I would have been down about 1700. But again, I already hit the sell button. It just hasn't reflected yet onto the screen, right? Like the signal's already been sent back and forth. But you know, I did still take a bit of a loss because I was green. Well, I kind of went back too much. Let's see. I was green 624. So from green 624 to red 200, it means I lost $800 in that trade. And this is not good. It's not good at all. This is what I call a sequence, where there's a series of trades in a very short time frame. The resumption started off strong for me. The second trade, which sometimes is my most aggressive trade, I got blazed and I gave back everything, and that wasn't good. And on top of that, again, somewhere that I keep seeing that I need to improve, I need it to be quicker to buy back after either taking a bigger loss or barely having like a near miss matrix dodge. I need to be faster to buy back the stock because it comes down right here to like 680. I mean, the halt level down was kind of close, but maybe I could have gotten in at like 6.95, $7, and maybe gotten this bounce back over 7, right? But again, coming back to the risk, if I hesitated, if I froze, if I'm in 6,000 shares and didn't sell until 680, I'm already down 4,000 at this point. It's why you have to, if you're going to be using big time size, you have to be willing to always do what's right, even when you get caught in an area or off guard. It's never time to panic here, because if you panic, you become vulnerable, and we don't want to be in the situation where we're hoping and praying, you know, the mercies of the market, right? So coming back to this particular trade, let's go back and review here. This, I need to be better in this area here in terms of giving it more time, I think. VWAP, where is VWAP? What's VWAP? I'm in at 79. It looks like VWAP might be a little lower though. 60. Okay, VWAP is at 60. I'm in at 79. I think in this situation here, I'm telling myself I need to be in lower, closer to my VWAP level here. Okay, I'll give myself a pass for cutting this scratch, which is essentially what I did. I might have gotten a fair fill in the spreads, whatever, but I want to be in a little closer to VWAP if it can come down a little more. But you know, you see like it's not coming below 75, and then there's a spread by 78 by 88, and this is going to be my issue here. So because I sold 79 and I can see that I'm not patient enough, there are days where the stocks will do this thing where let me bring this off the screen real quick. This is my rule for this type of setup, right? So let's say support is a zone. In this case, we have, what was the whole dollar? $7. So let's say there's $7. And maybe I can come off the screen too. Hold on. We can use the chart. Let's see here. Detach. Let's come to one cell. And I just kind of want, let's see if we can zoom out. Let's just like zoom in like this. Okay, that's perfect. So let's say $7, right? $7. Okay, this needs to come down. $7. Actually no, $7 here, and then like 680. All right. As you can see, I have the handwriting of a doctor. All right, so that's the first area that we had. My VWAP trend line is down here at 660, but I think, you know, I'm not super sure about the 80 level. So what it means is that I need to be patient. If this entire zone of 80 by 60 is support, for me personally, I tell myself all the time, do not buy unless it does come down lower into the zone where you're comfortable with the trade. If you're not super certain of the high or the low point of the support levels, right? Because I mean, it could even go down all the way to 50, right? Before it really bottoms up to curl up. So if I'm not super sure, I need to at least wait for a little bit of a lower area where I'm comfortable to then give it that stop, you know, that backstop. So you can see I was in at 80. I'm like, I think it's a little too high. I jumped out of the trade right here, scratch. And what's going to happen to me here is what I call like a conflicting thing in my brain, where as like a breakout trader and like micro, you know, like levels, you know, we watch it, you know, in terms of micro, just meaning like short time frame. We watch the smaller charts, 10-second charts, like guys like Crispy. There's traders who use tick charts. Myself, I'm using level 2. And because we're hyper scalping so much of these breakouts, at times it's like I revert back to that kind of mindset, and there's a conflicting of interests where I should be waiting for this bigger drop to then get in somewhere here. I see the green on the tape, and then I try to jump back in at like 79, thinking, oh, it's not gonna come down, and this thing is just gonna rip up again over 7. But it's like bro, like what the hell you're doing? What the hell you're doing? Like, stay locked in and just be patient for that lower zone that you know you can be comfortable giving the stock time. So look at what's going to happen. And this is what I start to call like botching, and it's not the best trade. So I try to mark it in. I try to mark it in because I'm like, man, it's just going to go without me. But I still think ultimately, you know, I could have been more patient here for the better trade, where I could be a little bit more, you know, disciplined to hold longer. This is good. I'm going to get a little lucky here because it does rip back up. And again, and this is the temptation at times, right? Because sometimes a smaller percentage of times this does happen, where the stock jumps up like this, and you know, again, it kind of tricks you into thinking you should do this at every time, where you know it's not always decisive in the move down. But it's where I have to be more consistent with myself, right? It's one of those type of things where I have to be more consistent with myself, and right there I'm a little slow to take profits. I'm not sure. Let's see, 15. And it looks like, oh, Pastor, brother, just take it on the market. Looks like I put out a limit order. This is not good that I didn't take something off already. I think right here, okay, at least we took something there. All right, fair. All right, let's see. We really, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up. This is too aggressive here. I think this is a little too aggressive. So the trade is when the trade ended up going well. Okay, great. Not ideally what we should have done. And notice how I got super aggressive here, because I think right here I'm thinking this thing is gonna just go through 30 and potentially retest 60. Now, because I'm watching it back and I'm pausing it and, you know, things like that, I'm skipping back and forth. The intuition as to what should happen is not as high, but I still think though I would want to wait for some sort of a dip before jumping back in like that. Just again, relative. We went from 70 to from 670 to 730. Wait patiently for some sort of a pullback, and then try. You know, we did see the other stock again. It is a little tricky though. We did see the other stock earlier that after the massive red to green, it just kept going. Things like that, you know. But again, I got to be consistent with one thing, and ultimately that thing for me is always to take the stocks low at the lowest level of support and or on the dip after we had this big move up. I think the odds are just more favorable in that side. There's going to be days where maybe it does rip right over 30 and I don't take it. But I think if I'm more consistent with myself and waiting for those pullbacks, I can do better, right? Right here, 98, you know, a little bit of a higher fill versus 88 on the bids at the time. And we can see right here, I think this is a good stop. We can see right here that it's actually giving that VWAP test that I suspected could have happened earlier. So again, right here, if this continues to flush down to like 50 and 40, I need to be thinking to buy back quickly to get in. And it comes down to 80. So you can see, right, there's like a lot of mistakes, areas where I'm not as quick as I should be, things like that. And let's see, I want to skip ahead. I think there's a big loss that ended up happening. Let's see if I can find it here. Let's see. Hold on, let's take a look at this candle here. This definitely was aggressive. And again, even after we held up support, back at the high of the range where you think we should go and retest 60, it's why the risk is always real. So let's see how this played out. It seems like 15 was resistance on this at this time. I'm going to try to quick pop below the level. My share size is fairly small, which looks like I might have had some losing trades. So I reduced my size. And I'm in at 90. You can see sometimes when you put out limit orders, right, what happens to you. I'm in at 92. 710 is on the ask. And I guess this is why I did put out the limit order. There's a spread here of 96. So if I sell market and I get filled on the bid, it's not going to be ideal. But I put out the limit order at 10. And right here, I think is where I could cancel and sell market if I wanted to. Well, you can see because I'm not out for some sort of a gain, I think, 7 by 705 would have been good. You can see that this, what should have been a small winning trade ends up basically being a losing trade. And this is frustrating. And not only that, it just teleports down to 68. I think Marcelo got caught here like a $6,000 loss on this. Was it this day? I can check. Now we can review how he traded this particular area here. So we saw a lot of mistakes, things that we could have done better. And the level at 60 ended up not holding up. And I believe that was the third dip. Let's just see how Marcelo did on this one. So I'm going to sign into the classes here as if I'm a student. I do have a student account as well that I can open up here. I'm going to log in. This is a full session, guys. Full session. So, Sunday, a lot of people are home. Instead of watching any football and Netflix, man, which, we can do that stuff later in the day. Let's make sure we do our due diligence first. We're going to be here for another 30 minutes at least, because if I'm not going to be live, I'm going to be on my laptop doing the same thing. So I have to have a full review here. Full review. So I'm going to log into the course website here. When you get situated, let's pull up those Marcelo archives. All right, here we go. So when you're a student, this is how it looks. If you're a diamond student, at least, right? If you're gold, you'll have access to the gold. But for those diamond members, this is how it'll look once you pull up the course website and you log in. So let's jump in there. So of course, as I mentioned, there's, we go from beginner to advanced, right? We go from you don't know nothing about the market all the way down, right? Every single thing that you will need to get, on the right track. Order types, everything. So, I'm going to do a big scroll here. My favorite chapter 14 and chapter 23, right? trading setup slash patterns, where Marcelo and I, we take turns going through different, is it 23, 24? Chapter 24, I meant to say, where we take turns going through the different patterns. And then chapter 24, where we do it again, but also with live examples, right? And let me just show you guys one of these videos very quickly. So when it comes down to the when it comes down to like the style of the classes, right? So again, it's full everything, almost like you're going back to school, right? It's like you're going back to school. Let me see how this looks if I pull up. Yeah, it's like you're going back to school. So for the people again who don't know anything, right? It's all here laid out, right? Myself, Marcelo takes a turn, and for each, we rotate back and forth. Let me come back to chapter 14 here quickly. I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I do want to show this because I don't show like inside the course a ton, but it's all here, right? It's all here. The two of us going back and forth between the patterns, examples, and then when you come back to chapter 24, as you keep progressing, you have it here with our live examples. And so we have a bunch of timestamps on YouTube where we go and we show you guys us taking those trades, right? And so you'll have Marcelo going through step by step, myself over and over. And then you come all the way down to the live archives. You can see how long this is because it needs to be that way. And we do upload our archive here every day, which does add to the length of the class. The courses. The course. What am I saying here? The course. So yeah, let me get that date, which was the 18th. Let's see. I think, was this the day that Marcelo lost? The 19th. I might be confusing the date. Actually, I don't see his upload. He might not have uploaded for that day. There was a lot. I could be confusing it with one of the other stocks. Actually, hold on. September. I might be looking at the wrong month. 26th. RD Marcelo. Okay, no, Marcelo was green on this day. So I think I'm confusing the days. But we can check to see if he was watching at the stock at that time. So let's just get the timestamp here. Which was NVVE at, what was that, like 9:51, but he traded PRTG. So this is one of the benefits, you can come here and then you can see how he did. So he did have NVVE resumption, PRTG he had up over there on the right hand side as well. Guys, I'm gonna say this again. I said it on Friday. There's nowhere else in the world that you can go to see Warren Buffett place his trades, all of his trades, with full transparency. But here in MMU, you can see that for myself and the other mentors. You can see how Marcelo made all his money on this particular day. Every area that he looked at, every area that he bought and sold. And then he also does the live recaps and master classes like this. So he'll do a live recap sometimes on the weekends, and then throughout the week he does the master class in the chat room for sometimes it's exclusive for the students. There are days like today where we do it for the broader chat room, and then other days where we do it for the YouTube. But we do this every day in the chat. Every day we're in there, and then after they small caps slow down, we're gonna bring back Gen 1, and you guys saw it a little bit last week where we're there, and we're pretty active with the entire chat room, like 50 of us hanging out and watching at large caps and all that stuff, right? Tesla, Nvidia, some people still trading some small caps. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit just to see if he was looking at it here after we had that drawdown. It looks like he might have switched back to PRTG already though. So again, stock selection, right? So he looks like he caught a small bounce in here. Let's look at this trade. Or was this break of 7? Let's see how this played out. I do like his level 2 configuration as well, which is the very tight bid-ask spread versus it being a little bit more spread out for myself and Tim. So he's in for that break of 7. Resistance was 715 if we remember. And let's see. So he's selling right up into that resistance for a nice quick trade. It's not bad at all right there. And this is the dip where so he also avoided that loss. This was the 3rd time. So I don't know if Marcelo also avoids taking the dip at the 3rd time, but he looks like he was definitely watching at it and avoided the loss. So that's good. And we can take a look at a few of the trades he took on PRTG here. Let's see. I'm gonna look for an area where his P&L jumps up or down pretty big, and a resumption is coming up here too. So maybe we can watch this as well. Let's see how the Mighty did on the PRTG resumption. 37. So we'll have to skip ahead to about, let's say, 41. It looks like he might have lost $300. So let's see how the resumption played out here. See if we can learn something. So we're halted up. Hold on. We're halted up at 1367. And we're kind of at high of day, it seems like. Is that pre-market high as well? So here we go. I'll just pause it when I need to. Okay. Hold on. Let me take one more look at that. That might have been a pretty aggressive buy. Okay, so it opened up lower. It looks like he took it immediately for that bounce. It didn't bounce. There's a bit of a churn here, which this type of movements is very peculiar for a resumption because resumptions are usually very, very fast and aggressive. So I'd sum it up so far as a little choppy. Let's see how the dip does down here. And it looks like he's looking for a bigger flush out. I'm going to go back and see what I did in that area too. And I don't think that's a bad idea because it's very strange how it moved there versus what we know a strong resumption to be. So I think looking for that bigger flush out was definitely not a bad idea. But the potential entry at 70 also is there if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. But it looks like you got to give it that couple of seconds though for that move. And right there, very quick break of the whole dollar trade, which we do have in chapter 24. That was pretty smooth right there. So Marcelo locked in. He didn't quite get the bottom of that candlestick, but he still took the move over the high. And that was a sick trade. So let's come back here. So it dips down a little bit. And it looks like he's really looking for those extended dips because he's not taking the first pullback, I'm noticing. The spread here seems to be about 15 cents at times. Sometimes it's 10 cents, sometimes even 20. Bro, Marcelo is juggernaut. This thing this is definitely a nice pullback there. Someday what's also tricky with these stocks too sometimes. When they are uptrending, some days the range to the downside is a little more. Not saying that we do the full retracement, but the range to the downside is a little more. And then we see the bounce. And we can see right here that he waited patiently here because it looks like he was searching for a bigger flush out. One is going to come, and even then it kind of still goes down a little more and he keeps it tight. So he's in at 23. It gets all the way down to 08. It looks like it might have pulled back below 13, maybe 12.90. But I think right there could have been a decent place to try to maybe get back in. And look at how quickly it's back at 50, right? So it's very volatile. It is tricky. But I do like his patience there, waiting for that overextended drop down. Sometimes it is intuition because, you trade stocks like this in the past and you're so used to seeing them, kind of trickle down just a little more before before curling up. And it's why it's so hard to sometimes flip the switch, because you know, a different stock on a different day might come like this, where you, on some entries, it requires you to be in a little higher on that dip, or let's say the dip is tighter and then it bounces up. So here, let's skip ahead a little bit more. Let's see if we can find an hold on. Okay, looks like a good trade is going to come in here. So we do curl back up. Is this going to be a break of the whole dollar trade again, or maybe something a little different? There's 87 on the bids. Looks like he's going to try for the whole dollar trade here. And what I've noticed there is that he's gonna give that a little bit more time to go, rather than taking the quick exit. Because you notice it wasn't immediate. If we come back here, it wasn't an immediate move. But watching for the 1 minute candle to continue after making the new high, and the selling pressure is minimal at 92. I think below 90 he would cut the trade, but giving it that bit of a wiggle room is definitely going to help out. And then here, getting back in for the extended move. Looks like he might not have gotten the best fill, selling maybe a slight midget early, but that was pretty good. And then we're back at 1450, potentially making a new high right here. So it's holding at 50. Notice how it's at high of day, and it's kind of just churning. It's not really going. It's not really pulling back. These areas are sometimes key, because if you can determine that the dip is not going to come, and that's what he tried to do here, you can try to buy back again to potentially get the next move again, the next level. But you do have to still keep in mind risk to reward. Again, for me, I think ultimately waiting for the dip in the areas where we're super extended makes more sense. So right here, instead of me looking to continue to press on the offensive, I think being patient for that pullback can be a better option to potentially, you know, and actually here it comes, right? Could be a better option to potentially try again. And so, you know, 33 fill, can we get out here over 50? You know, that could be a solid trade. And I'm honestly surprised that he's using only 1,400 shares. Honestly, I'd expect him to be using 2,800. Marcelo and Tim usually like 3K size on these stocks every trade. He does take a break-even exit, but the selling pressure is not on, so trying again. Taking 20 cents right there, but notice how it's like churning at 22. Like, it seems like it's holding here. Like, it's not like flushing down below. What's it going to be? So 22 perhaps could have been like a hidden buyer in that area, because we did see a little bit of red on the tape, like 20, you know, like again, like it's a little bit of red on the tape. It's not really coming down. It can still give the drop, of course, but, and I think right here for him, it's like, all right, there's a little uncertainty that it could come down, but when it doesn't, he's taking the small pop because he knows, hey, we can get back to the high of the range, which is at 70. So even if he's not in at 30 exactly, if he can catch 40, he can still sell over 50, 55 to make something. Pretty clean stuff, man. Pretty clean trading here. Pretty clean. And then here's the pop over 55.60. It could give the new high of day altogether, but that's a pretty clean push. So he's gonna try for the new high of day. Can we see 80 then? Keeping it tight. And notice that, you know, in the trades that are more risky, how he's not giving it any time versus the trades that are a little bit more safe for him being in connection, you know, and let's say in rhythm with the stock, he is giving a little bit more time. And slowly but surely. So every now and again we'll hit a big trade. We'll hit a big trade of 1, 2, 3K, but a lot of the times it's smaller, you know, if you want to say base hit trades, you know, 200 there, you know, 400 there, $100 there, like it adds up. And, you know, can we keep those losses to a minimum, right? So whether you're trading large caps, small caps, crypto, forex, doesn't matter. If you're keeping the risk tight, you can get, you know, you can potentially get something good out of the move. All right, so this is pretty good. I'm gonna cut it off here though and take a look at the YouTube comments. If you guys have any questions in the chat room, you can feel free to ask. Zay, I see you're in the building. Momo, bro, let me know. Tempest, you guys can feel free to ask. I'm gonna check out the YouTube stream here, guys. If you're now tuning in, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. It's been quite the extended study session. I don't usually give this much away on YouTube. As you guys know, I do sell a course, and all this stuff is in the course material. But from time to time, man, from time to time we'll do it. Not too often, but from time to time. So let's see here. And shout out to all the traders tuning in from India. Let's come back up. Let's just see. Hello, I'm in the depths with this month. Mobile. Don't worry, brother. Let's keep it tight. Let's size down, and let's continue to aim for excellence. A lot of traders in the chat room, like some of the like big time traders too have trouble. So, even Tim, Tim is super consistent. Like green 9 out of every 10 days, and Tim had a lot of trouble the last 2.5 weeks. So it just is a testament to how tricky the month has been. All right, let's continue to move forward here. What constitutes a dip versus a good dip versus a bad dip as far as entering a trade is concerned? You see, this is the type of question for the MMU students that I like to answer privately in the chat room. What I will say though for the dips, what I'll say is that you have to be buying in a place where the stock is in a support zone. I don't specifically use supply and demand zones in terms of indicators, but you want to be buying in a place where other people are finding the stock overextended to the downside and worthy for a move back up. And so let's say, regardless of the price range, just understand the personality of the stock and the current trend. If the personality of the stock is giving tighter retracements, let's say 40-50% of the move up, then you want to pay attention to all those levels. If you want to call it like soaking is what some traders refer to it as, where people are like soaking up and building, accumulating positions, buying the pullback. Those are like the key areas. Now in terms of like price point and where that can be, there are some areas that are obvious at times, like the flushes below half and whole dollars, VWAP levels. There's some EMAs that people use. A lot of the times I use previous highs. These are all different gauges. Sometimes the previous low of a particular candle that was very aggressive. Sometimes I have no idea where the dip is going to be, and so I let the stock pull back, and then that level I then use as my reference, right? But even then, even with all these indicators like level 2 as well, if we get into more like technical, even then it's not always 100%. So you do have to keep in mind to keep your loss tight and understand your trade plan, your risk to reward ratio before buying into the stock. Hey, we flushed down $1 share. I'm in it like $6.90. We just went from like $8, or what would that be, $7? Yeah. No, $8. Yeah, $8. We're down at like $6.90. It dropped $1.10. What is my risk to reward here? How likely is this thing to bounce up at least 40 cents, 50 cents before giving another drop of, let's say, 20 cents, right? And if you're looking for that 2-to-1, 3-to-1, you want to make sure your risk to reward matches up in that trade, right? But in terms of where the stocks will always drop every single time, it's very difficult to say. You just have to utilize those indicators: previous highs, previous lows, volume, EMAs, moving averages, VWAP. I kind of forgot what I was. Okay, I was looking at the comments. Let's see. When you started becoming consistently profitable, can you tell us what your biggest aha moment was? Honestly, for me, I never really had like a super big moment in time where I kind of like came to a massive realization. It's always been like slow and steady progress for me. I think Marcelo more so, on the other hand. Tim, some of the other guys have more of like a light bulb moment. For me, it's been like just slow and consistent, slowly and surely. And I do think that if we see hotter markets, we can improve though. It's sometimes tricky, but if we can see hotter markets and if we can be more consistent with ourselves, we can see bigger and better days. And something that we all got to work on, especially me, is being being a little bit better at switching from trend to trend, because some markets do require you to sell fast, other markets require you to hold longer, and you got to be able to understand that the market that you're in and properly adjust to it to be where you need to be. Masterclass. I needed to watch this from the beginning. Yeah, guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and let's have the screen in the background look a little appealing here. Let's pull up some charts at least as we're looking at these comments for the aesthetics. Have you noticed the floating orders on Thinkorswim are creating horrible entries? That's very true. So you got to be very careful when you're using market orders. There are days where we hit the buy button for market, and the stock is the order is floating for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, usually when execution should be at about 1 second or even a few milliseconds, right? So especially when you're using big positions, you got to be very careful. I like to screen record. That way I at least have evidence if I ever have to call in to Charles Schwab and try to get a refund, because they understand this is an issue. They have signal issues from time to time between them and the market makers, these big time people like Citadel and whatever else firms. At the end of the day, it's technology, and technology can have faults and latency and problems. And so it's something that's essentially at this point like part of the business. It does suck, but we got to continue to protect ourselves. So screen record, that way you have evidence, and when the floating orders does come, they do say that it's important that you put out the sell order. That way they can see where you should have been filled. I have heard before from a representative though, and maybe this might not be the case, do not quote me on this, that sometimes when you don't sell the position, that the broker can take on, like, buy the shares from you at a particular price, almost like a person to person kind of a deal, where it's like, hey, because our service let you down so bad, we're going to take these shares from you at that price, and then we'll deal with the position afterwards, whether they sell it, hold it, whatever. I don't know if they still do stuff like that, but I did hear, like, a representative told me this like some time ago. This was a long time ago though. Let's see, RT, since Thinkorswim is lagging and the order executions are not as fast as it used to be, have you thought of opening an account with Webull? You know what? I hear a lot about Webull, but I never really considered it. For some reason, in the back of my mind, it's always been like a broker, like Robinhood kind of thing, kind of platform. But that's just been a bias that I've had that's not been good. And maybe I should check it out, right? I know a few people also use TradeStation. Heard a couple of good things about them. When Thinkorswim is working well, it's a great platform. When it's having issues, it's very costly. Whether it's a day where we're missing a stock because of the lag, or it causes us to be red, or even like that emotional toll of like throwing you off your game. I mean, this happened to me on Thursday actually. I was in such a good rhythm. I fought my way back to green on DUO, and there's an area where I bought and my order's just sitting there. So I sized down to one share. I'm in and out a couple times trying to like make sure that everything is working well. And when the breakout started to happen, like, I hesitated from jumping in. And part of it was like sizing back up to 3K shares, and am I going to get lag here? And the stock ended up going from like 112 to like 125, and I was pretty pissed. Like, I kind of fell out of a rhythm there too. So things like that is what happens when we have technical issues. Part of the deal, but we got to try to keep focused as best as we can. So, yeah, level 2 can definitely be noisy at times. I'm not going to say, anything against this comment here. It's definitely true that at times it can be noisy. Direct routing, yeah, there are a few people that use commission brokers for scalping and are still doing very well. Sometimes it comes down to, can paying a small fee be worth all the slippage and torment of the floating orders? And you know if you can get 1 cent better entry, 1 cent better exit, sometimes it can make the world of difference. Crypto trading, crypto trading. I think we might have caught everything. Hey, RT guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Are taxes bad? I mean, taxes aren't really bad. We have to pay taxes as part of the society we live in at this point, here in the States. Um, there's a couple of different ways you can go about paying taxes. What I do recommend, this is not, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, but in my personal experience, what I can say for myself and the people very close to me is that it's better to trade under like an entity rather than like your individual name. I do trade under an entity now. I did trade under my individual name for a long time, but this year, it was time to switch it up finally, right? Um, but I do have a couple of companies. Um, Trading under an entity and just having a business when it comes to taxes, there's more incentives. This is general knowledge. This is the United States of America, where businesses have far more incentives than the average individual who will be filing taxes. And I do like that we're not taxed immediately. If you're working a career or job, you get taxed right away. And ultimately, I think that the more cash in your account, the better it is. The more buying power you have, the more things you can do with money. So even that in itself is almost like a bit of an interest in our favor, right? But yeah, you got to make sure when you do start to make profits that you get a good accountant, a good CPA, and that you do all the necessary things to potentially save, right? Because when your business is set up properly, whether you're a student or a master trader, there's going to be incentives. People who are taking um, courses, people who are paying for chat rooms, scanners under an entity, these things are business expenses and can be deducted from your overall income, right? Um, there's always equipment. I mean, you can't really depreciate too much of equipment because there's only a couple things that you might have in terms of like monitors and desks. But it's still, if you're starting out and you're doing well and you do buy these things, you buy a new laptop, at least there's some sort of incentive there. Chanzi, what's going on, man? Long time no see. There's some incentive there, right? And you can trade again as an individual under an entity, meaning whether an LLC or corporation. There's different ways to set it up. You can like work with an accountant to see what might be the best for you. Zoza, Mighty Putty, Mighty Putty. So I had a video call with Zoza here, right? Mighty Putty from chat room. A great individual. Shout out to him living in down there in Georgia. Shout out to all the traders tuning in from Georgia. Mighty Putty, cool guy. And also recommended. He asked me what my favorite dish was. I told him fried rice, and so he recommended me to check out something called, it's like jambalaya fried rice, and it's pretty good, man. Um, so much so that there's a big bowl of it in my refrigerator downstairs. Um, but yeah, shout out to him. He did pass verification. So if you guys are in our chat room, which I can pull up on the screen here quickly, it is a weekend, so it's like, pretty slow right now, but let me just show you guys quickly. If I pull up our chat room, you guys will see that there are people with this blue check, right? And if they have a blue check, what it means is that they've been verified. You can come up here to our verification section. For someone to be verified and to pass verification, they must have over $25,000 in profits. They must be trading in a live account, right? And the purpose of this is for transparency. For anyone in our profit loss section posting rather large P&Ls, if we're to like come up here, there's some smaller ones, there's some bigger ones. For anybody posting rather large P&Ls, we want to just make sure that you are who you say you are. And ultimately, this is the chat room rules, is that if you're pretty public, you kind of owe us some sort of level of transparency, right? And so there's some red P&Ls here too, as you guys can see. We continue to come up. So, Green Dream, another person who does really well with a blue check. Marcelo, of course. Let's see if we can find a couple more. Lucas, right? All these guys, you'll know, okay, these guys are trading in a live account and doing their thing. Some people who are smaller size, they haven't quite hit 25K in gains yet. So, they don't have to check just as yet. But yeah, so another part of the screening is that you have to do a screen share. We do not accept screenshots. You have to be logged into your platform. So once you're logged into your broker like this, Thinkorswim, we ask you to show us your year-to-date P&L, right? Your year-to-date P&L, which is when you come to the monitor tab, I believe it's usually somewhere after you like remove this stuff. It's usually like somewhere here once the asterisks are turned off. That's all we ask to see, your year-to-date P&L. You do have to place one trade with at least one share size, because we understand there's some people that work magic with Photoshop and all these things. So we ask you, hey, buy and sell one share market order. You're usually doing the market open. And once everything checks out, we give you the check and we let the community know that you're A-OK. And I understand some people are pretty private, but again, when you choose to post a big P&L, you're then on your own accord becoming more of a public trader in the chat room. And we have to make sure that you're legit, because there's been people in the past, people who in the first 20 minutes of the day up 90K. Okay, great. We see on Twitter, there are some verified traders who are doing this. They're making $250,000 a day. But, if you're not willing to have a one-on-one call with me for 3 minutes to prove to me, because once you prove to me, you prove to the community. Once you prove to Marcelo, Tim, Triad, you prove to the community, right? So we're not asking you to share your screen to the world, but just for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, one-on-one, just make sure your Thinkorswim platform, everything is good to go, and that's it, right? So shout out to Mighty Putty, to Owen, to Vegito, and all the traders who are getting it done. Yeah, my mic's volume is turned down again, right? I can put it up. It's gonna go back down on its own, sadly, because of the muffle settings I have. I do have a brand new mic right here that just came, so I'm gonna try to set it up a much better mic by tomorrow. This should be good to go. Hopefully the audio will be much better. Chanzi, man, hope you're doing well, bro. Have you? Someone's asking if I'm going to pay. So we're going to shut it down pretty soon. Someone's asking if I'm going to pay taxes at the end of the year, or have I been red? I've been paying quarterly. In fact, I just sent my accountant some money like 2 days ago. I got to go meet up with him, I think on Monday. It's good, and I like to meet up with him, because whenever I meet up with him, there's always something that I learn. And the way how his office is set up, like it's like he's pretty, how do I describe it? Like he's a talker, right? Like he loves to have conversation. He's a pretty social guy. And so like, we'll talk about stuff, and it's always good because I can learn something. Some days I'm wishing like, I was his age or he's my age, and we hang out more, because the guy's brain is like worth looking, scalping into and learning everything. Let me pull up the trader view again, and then, so this is how the year's been going for me. And don't worry, I'm going to show each month by month and week by week. January, we started off the year very strong, and I'm most proud of just a few red days here. A very solid month. This type of money is, pretty good stuff. February, our best month ever, and the best month for a lot of traders. More red days than I would have liked, but pretty solid. And you know what? I could have done better this week. On this day, I watched it back. I reduced my share size so early. I think between like 15K to like 26K, I dropped my share size, and my max share size might have been like 2,500 on this day. We had stocks at like $15, but the spreads were tight, the pullbacks were predictable. I need to go back in time and take 6,000 shares. So when the next one comes, I'm using like 6,000 shares because I'm gonna go crazy. I think we can see like 100K day on the right day, on the right day, for sure, possible, doable, likely. But this week I was out here shoveling snow on this day. Uh, I got a headache trading a little early and decided to leave. I should have pushed through, taken a leave, 2 pills, and just kept pushing through because I missed out a lot of gains. And then Friday, I think, or it might have been Friday. I don't know when I left out. Was it Friday? Yeah, it looks like it might have been Friday. I don't know, one of those days. We can come down to detail, just a quicker overview. This is the year. It's been a solid year. These are our averages, and we can come down to net. The number's going to come down slightly, but still pretty much the same. 200K on the year. It's been trading has been quite the experience. You know, it is life changing in some sense. I don't know what I would have been doing if not for trading. I am a hardworking person, so I think I would have been doing fine. But this is ultimately the best place I could have ever came to, the best space. There's so much opportunity. I don't see a ceiling in sight. I do understand market conditions can slow down, but I know what I can expect when the markets are hot, and I know what I can expect for myself now, and I know what I can expect for myself as I continue to become more consistent, as I continue to become even more disciplined, have more rigidness in my routine. These numbers can double, triple, quadruple. If I think I can make 100K in a day, the numbers can definitely blow up, right? I'm always, I always understand, again, I'm a realist as well. We can see slower market conditions, we could have smaller years, but we're going to keep pushing and we're going to keep going until we can no longer go anymore. And my average hold time for losing trades was a little higher because I got caught into a few halts down. It should really reflect as like 10 seconds or less, but because I got caught into those halts down for like 5-10 minute halts, it skewed my stats a little bit. And also, this is where I got the largest loss ever, was in a halt down. Just a heads up here. You can see, like, the way for how I trade, so I cut the trade so quickly. You might say, Relentless, how in the world did you buy so high and sell so low? Well, I bought the stock trying to buy a dip so it halted up, resumed, dip. I think it gave the dip and rip, and then it gave an extended dip that I tried to buy at the very bottom, and it got caught into a halt down. And instead of it resuming like couple cents lower, like 20 cents, this thing resumed from 12.15. It resumed at $10. And on this trade, I took 1,800 shares. I was supposed to take 500 shares, I believe. And I felt a little FOMO or whatever it was, and I decided to be more aggressive. And I paid the price. I was down like $5,000 at the time of this loss, and I made back some money, but it was brutal. I think I got myself to red like 1,700, and I ended the day red like 2,500. Trading is risky for sure. Trading is risky. We had this $1,800 loss recently, which I wasn't proud of. You can see that we had a lot more consistency earlier into the month and at the end of last month. And we had a lot more red days here mid-month. And I think these red days here are fine, except this one where I went overboard and overtraded. Got to keep them to like 500, because it's much quicker to make back. So the next day I come back, I'm up 900. If I keep these red days tight, when we do start to see more consistency in a hotter market, and especially with like one solid day, you can really do super well very quickly, right? So we got to keep it tight, and I'll show you guys the equity curve and then we'll shut it down. I'm gonna go get some lunch after this. Where's the equity curve? So in terms of motivation to end off the day, right? If you're somebody who's struggling, you know, it all comes down to a few things. It comes down to education and discipline. You have to first educate yourself, make sure that you're becoming more competent day by day and that you're improving. How can you improve? Well, there's a couple of small things at first, and there's a couple of bigger things. First, you know, technically, make sure your equipment is decent. Make sure your Wi-Fi is good. Do the little things like screen recording. That way you can come back and study up later. And join a community, right? You know, the community that we have here is amazing, right? I just opened up a free section in the chat room. This is going to be for a limited time only. And I'll say this, you're not going to have full access to do everything, but you will have access to chat with us and some of the other traders from time for a limited amount of time. It's going to be for, I don't know how long I want to do it yet. It's going to be for at least 2 weeks though, right? For at least 2 weeks. So if I come back to the chat room, our main trading floor here has the day trading channel, which is where we usually chop it up during the weekdays, right? Right now it's weekend, so it's slow. But I opened up this open floor section. Maybe I rename it over time, but this is where you guys can now come in and chop it up. So I'm going to post a link here. If you're in the YouTube live stream, this is your chance to join the chat room for free for a limited time. So, you know, during the week, it's going to be, on Monday, it's going to be active in here. It's going to be active. I mean, it's already pretty active, but it's going to be crazy. So I'm going to post this link here. Let's see. I'm going to post this link. So again, joining a community is key, right? Having like-minded people, a concentration of like-minded people who are on a similar path as you. And it's more than just texting and calling out stocks. It's creating small study groups, right? Because to be honest with you, when in the chat room, you don't even have to be a part of the main floor to be able to add a friend and text them in the DM, someone who's going through something similar, right? As time go on, you know, there's going to be certain people that stand out that you see, okay, this person is trading very similar to I am. They're watching the same stocks. You create study groups. There's people who every day at 7 a.m., 5 of them, they jump on a call, right? They're not in the, sometimes they're not in the main chats, but they're in like a group call with themselves, with each other. This is what we need. Small cells of people working together, helping to keep each other accountable. These are some of the benefits of there's so many things that helps that the community does for you, right? So join a community, right? So coming down to now educating yourself, getting a mentor, right? A lot of people don't really think about this when they're starting something new. Anytime you're doing anything new, it's great to have a mentor. Let's say a YouTube, you know, you're starting something, it could be a YouTube channel. It could be something as simple as, you know, working a camera or something, right? You're going to look up videos on how to do these things, right? And that's what a mentor essentially is in trading. But fair warning, be very careful that the individual that you choose is somebody who is transparent, someone who is obviously doing it and doing it for real, right? You guys see myself, I'm on YouTube doing the live streams. You know, for anyone who does have access to the course, they can come back and watch every single recording of me over the last few years, of every single day. How did I lose 1,300 on this day? You know, everything is here. How did I make 500 on this day? How did Marcelo make 5K on this day? Start to end. No tricks, no gimmicks, no hiding, just raw and real. Make sure if you're following somebody, that person is a real trader, because if not, you're following something that doesn't exist and the person is lying about who they are, which is not fair, and you're ultimately wasting time. All right, so keep that in mind for those of you who are looking into education. And you know, we do have a flash sale here for anybody who is interested. This has been going on since Friday, so it's still pretty recent, but you guys can check out the course website. I think I did post a link. I'll post a link again For those of you who do become Diamond members, you'll have full access to everything that we offer. For those of you who are looking to follow along, a guy like Tim, who's right here, shout out to Tim, the big guy right here on the left-hand side. You guys can purchase his course individually. Likewise, a Triad. There's also Silver, which is pretty low ticket for anybody who you want something pretty solid to get started, but you don't want the full commitment. Silver is pretty cheap, it's 17 bucks, and it's honestly a lot of value, right? Like there's a lot of stuff in Silver. Gold is a step up. It's continuation, and it does offer chat room access. But Diamond is the real deal, homie steel. It's it's of course more expensive, but it needs to be. And honestly, into the new year, our prices are going to go up because as I continue to think about it, we're giving away so much information, and let's put it like this, right? And I'm a real mother lover, so I'm gonna say this to you guys straight. Not everybody who takes the course is gonna become profitable, right? Not everybody in the world is going to become profitable. Why? Day trading is hard. Day trading is risky. There's a lot of mental torture. It can be like psychological warfare. You guys saw how close some of those trades were. Some people, and it might be that, they might need a different strategy, a slower pace strategy, whatever, right? I'll be honest, transparent. That's who I am. Not everybody's going to become profitable. Let's just throw out a number, right? Even if for every 10 person, even if one person becomes profitable, all right, that alone confirms the value that is here, because that one person who does make it becomes, and I can show off my students. By the way, the interviews are coming this week. We're starting the interviews this week. The success stories of the students are coming out, so stay tuned. Even if one person becomes profitable, what they are then able and capable of doing is absolutely insane. By the way, every purple name that you guys see here is a student, right? Whether it is an individual like Cactus Rob or D Trades. I mean, there's so many people. Yeah, we have red days. We post our red days. Let's come up, right? We can scroll through this section here. And once upon a time ago, I did allow the entire chat room to see the P&L section, despite not being a paid member. But I took that away a few months ago, right? But we have so many students, and what I can do, I wish it was the last day of the month and everybody already posted their calendar. People are not going to post their calendar up until tomorrow, after tomorrow's trading is done, right? There's Tim, who's one of the mentors. Tim up about I think Tim has to already be up over $1 million in a year. That Menti and Dynasty, for those of you who don't know, we also do these team house trips, right? I'm going to post one of those videos here, the links. This guy's name is Daniel. Is it Daniel? No. Dominic and is it Daniel? I think it is Daniel. Daniel and Dominic, right? Menti and Dynasty in the chat. Jorge, who's also been doing pretty well recently. We brought them along. They won the team house trip that we did, the last one. And I'm so proud that these guys trading has just ballooned. It is absolutely ballooned. So let me grab the link. I'm going to post this link here into the YouTube stream for you guys to see. So we did this trip in Florida where we all, we're the core team house members, myself, Marcelo, Tim, Crispy, right? Some of the guys you'll see around the community. We all met up, and all right, let's zoom in here. We all met up, and we trade together. We basically live together for a period of time, right? Whether it's a week or two, some trips are longer, some trips are shorter, but we do this every few months. Every few months we meet up at a different location, and we all trade together and hang out. I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. I'm gonna mute the volume here just for a quick sec, but after the live stream, which we're wrapping it up, you guys can check it out. You'll get to see all the guys, all the craziness that goes down when we meet up, and we started doing this in 2022. We go out for lunch. Shout out to Calamity right there. Also, all these guys are in the chat room. Marco, right? All of these guys are in the chat room. Crispy Trades. I was just hanging out with Crispy because we live pretty close to each other. I was just hanging out with Crispy Friday, right? We were at a car show, watching some pretty cool drifting and things like that. And this is what we do. We get together, we have a good time, we trade, we have fun. I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. It's insane that trading has allowed us to be able to do this type of thing, I mean, just insane. So you guys can, and this is all on the YouTube channels, right? You guys can check it out. I can post a link to Marcelo's and Tim's channels, Triads, as well here. BMR, this is most of us did pretty well on that one, and now it's paying for our meals, So I wanted to do a virtual meetup this weekend, but I'm gonna do it next weekend. I have to write it down in my calendar here so I can promote it throughout the week. But the community is going strong. The students are doing well. A lot of students are progressing. Some are using small size, and they're sticking to process over profits until they can really do it. All right. Oren, who's also been pretty disciplined, using a really small size, down 33 cents. So we're not skipping steps here, right? We're not skipping steps. Cool man, part of the broader community. Big Steve, also an MMU student, despite his name not being read, because he's also an admin. Big Steve, I'm going to do an interview with Steve as well. His story is insane, man. But, this goes on and on and on and on and on. Every day we're in here. So, but yeah, guys, check out the classes, check out the flash sale that's going on, educate yourselves, make sure that you're doing all the due diligence and necessary things to become successful, right? In terms of motivation. If you're someone who's been read, you really have to deep dive, study your metrics, see where you're going wrong, and be very quick to implement change. As you do this, you'll become more refined and a better version of yourself. So let's continue to be better individuals. And, not just in trading, but also in our personal lives, right? Let's find ways to be better. Let's find ways to be more consistent. And ultimately, let's strive for greatness, because that's my only goal here is progress, being the best version of myself. So remember, if you can see it in your mind, I got to take this crazy headset off. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. Let's continue to chase our greatness. All right. So this is where we're going to shut it down. I think we posted all the links. I can post the course link again. And, oh yeah, let me post the link for Marcelo and those guys' channels. Our biggest drawdown, guys, 9K, right? You can see we definitely, trading is not an easy field, but very doable, very possible. Mighty stocks. Some people don't know who Marcelo is, which is why that Team House vlog is a good video for me to post here. It's like Marcelo is my my partner here in the trading scene, right? One of the mentors, likewise with Tim. Triad. I'm gonna post all those channels right here. And then we're out like south tomorrow again. Honestly, I could do this. I feel like maybe this is something that I should do every Sunday, because we're not doing the Q&As anymore. Maybe we can mix in Q&As as well, right? We answer so many questions during the live classes during the week. Now we realize, the Q&A, we're not getting enough questions for the Q&A because we're answering the questions right away. So on the weekend, we're going to change up the content and we're going to bring fresh stuff and different things. As you guys were told by me, the content is coming back. It's been like 2 years since I've made content. And I say that as in, you know, I do the YouTube live stream and recaps and stuff like that, but I don't consider that content. That's just me doing my due diligence. Now it's time. So there's Marcelo's channel. Here's Tim's channel. And I'm gonna go eat a massive plate of food here. Some fried rice coming up. And then triad trading. All right. There you guys have it. You got the chat room link. You got the link to that vlog. I showed you guys a little bit of insight into the classes. I showed you guys some insight into how I study, my review session. I showed you guys my trader view metrics of how I've been doing so far on the year. And now it's time to go. Now it's time to get out of here. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good one. Hit that thumbs up if you have not already. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to do more videos like this. Some are going to be less technical. But, you know, I hope you guys enjoyed. You can save it to your favorite. You can rewatch it as many times as you'd like. And also feel free to share it with other traders, right? Let's keep going. Let's stay focused. We know the road ahead is not going to be easy. But, you know, we can overcome, right? Which is why our name is Relentless. And not just me, but our community. We can overcome, and we can be better than those other guys out there, man. Because, you know, there's also a little bit of competition too, right? So all the clay traders, I don't know what their names are, but, you know, the Patrick Wieland, because these are all other big time traders, right, in the space. And shout out to Beginner Trader, my guy. Shout out to him too. There's the Warrior traders. There's Humble traders. There's the Tim Sykes traders. Clover. There's so many people. Investors on the ground. I mean, they're going short, right? So there are competition in some way, right? Investors on the ground are going short. So, you know, we can't allow these people to outwork us. The humble traders, the warrior traders, we can't allow these people to outwork us. If you find out that somebody from another community, the beginner traders, are studying for 1 hour a day, then we have to study for 2. We can't allow them to be better than us. So, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, again, shout out to these communities, whatever they're doing, but right here, we got to be the best. And so I'm going to lead this charge fearlessly. You know, let's keep doing it. Let's keep going. Tomorrow again, man, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, we're going to enjoy the process, and we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep steady. We're going to keep steady because we know what to expect when the hot markets come back around, and we're really firing off on all cylinders. I can be a better version of myself next week, next month, next year than I am now. So I'm going to chase down that greatness, and I'm going to come ready, man. I'm going to come correct. We just got to keep going. One day at a time, one trade at a time. So I'll catch you guys later. Stay safe, stay green. It's been Relentless. My webcam, I did adjust, so it's looking a little bit better. The camera that I just bought we'll use for all those interviews. And we have this mic that we're going to set up later for some better audio starting tomorrow. Stay safe, stay green, enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you guys next time.